Hello, everyone, and welcome back to In It to Win It, where we talk about entrepreneurship, budgeting, as well as what does it take to really be an entrepreneur. Well, today, you know what? Our topic is entrepreneurship and money. Yep, I said it. I said the word money. And today, we got a special guest to help us talk about entrepreneurship and how do we do this thing from a financial perspective. Her name is Melanie Perry. Now, y'all, this sister is making it happen. Yes, she's a certified financial planner. She even has a Zeallionaire club. Now, I heard of millionaire, trillionaire, but no, she went there. She went there with Zeallionaire club. So I want you to put your hands together. Come on now, don't be shy. Let's put those hands together for her. Yay! Come on in, come on in, come on.
Well, it is a pleasure to be here today, talking about my
Wow.
favorite subject.
Money. Money. So, you know what? First of all, I actually did some research. So I just want everyone to know I actually do my research on everybody before they come on the show. And you know what? She actually has a very impressive background. She is actually, when you say about social proof, she's doing it. So I said, you know what? I'm going to ask Melanie to come on and we're going to talk about it. So the first question I have is that when you're talking to entrepreneurs or most people in general who's thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, do the conversation of my personal finance come into their mind? Or are they just thinking about how do I fund the business?
Usually not. Usually the conversation is how much more money can I make? How can I make money? How can I create,
Mm,
end the poverty in my family, create generational wealth. It's all about the earning potential and not about the processes and the structures to actually build sustainable wealth. Sustainable wealth
wow.
doesn't come from our physical ability to generate wealth. It more so comes from the assets that we own that allow our money to make money upon itself. That is sustainable wealth. That's how you create generational wealth. That's how the Rockefellers have done it and all them folks, have done it. And so when I hear entrepreneurs, come to me from a business advisory standpoint, it's like, okay, hold on, wait a minute. Have we first separated our personal and business expenses?
Mm, look at
How
there.
about that
Look at
one?
there. Look at there, because you know what? Now ooh, that's a pet peeve. That's a pet peeve because I do coaching, and the first thing I tell people that all because your business made $1,000 does not mean you made $1,000.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
there's that whole thing. And you said something that was very fascinating. That again, most people I think don't even think about it from that perspective. Creating generational wealth and not what I call the side hustle money. So the side hustle, you know what I mean. So the
Hmm.
side hustle money is I consider that money that you helping to pay pay some extra bills and stuff, not as you say getting assets to actually pass on and then actually have those assets make money for you to have generational wealth. So when people come in, looking at it from this business perspective, like I said, they're trying to get the side hustle money, or they're trying to make some extra money. When you have that reality conversation, it's like, you got $500 in the bank, so if this business don't work, you can fall back on. How are those conversations?
Yeah. So it's what I refer back to in terms of for any client that I work with, no matter where they are in their wealth journey, is to make sure that they have a solid financial foundation. The
Okay.
average American has less than $1,000 in the bank saved, right?
Yeah.
So if that's the case, the idea of trying to get, $1,000 saved, you're either trying to reduce your expenses or make more money, right? But
Hmm.
do we have the right structures in place? So this financial foundation basically consists of like three buckets. And the
Okay.
first
Okay.
bucket is the dip account. And this is something that I came up with 23, almost 24 years ago when I got into the industry, because I was working with so many heart-centered people that
Uh-huh.
we would sit down and we would, talk about their goals and their budget, their expenses, and then create a, savings plan. Once we got to 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, whatever it was, I'd get a call. My mother, sister, cousin, friend, need some help. And it's like, oh, we can't make
That's real though.
traction
That's
because
very
there's
real.
someone in their
Yes.
family or someone in their circle that's like, I know you have some money. And then knowing that we do have the finances, it's hard to tell that person no. So after I got about 4 or 5, calls, regards to this, I said, now wait a minute. I can't tell you you can't help your mother, right? That's not possible. But what kind of boundaries, what kind of rules can we begin to set
Okay.
around our money so that we're making some traction and we're also not taking away that other person's ability to stand on their own solid ground? Because sometimes you can be an enabler, and
Uh-huh.
sometimes the best thing you can do for that person to help them grow is to say no. So the rules that I help people to create is one, like I said, this dip account. And the purpose of this dip account is to have at least a month of your expenses set aside so that if you
Okay.
do get that call from a mother, father, sister, cousin, friend, then you can say, okay, I'm going to dip into my dip account and help you out. But once you get down to 50% of that amount, let's say you're accumulating $5,000. So when you get down to 2,500, that's your zero. Because the reality is, if you actually had no money to save, no money to give, then
Hmm.
you'd say, I'm sorry, I don't have it. You got to ask somebody else. So, this is a way in which you can put the mask on yourself to protect yourself, but then also be able to help someone else out.
Oh
So
wow.
this can be to help friends or family. This can be, look, you've been working your 9 to 5 from 9 to 8, from 9 to 9, and then you have your household, and then you've been busy work, full time, you doing stuff on the weekends, and you're like, you know what? It's time to take a respite. And so you can dip into that dip account to go, depending on where you are, Sedona, the Keys,
All right. Punta
Martha's
Cana.
Vineyard,
Is
you know, right? Wherever, and just hop on a bus, train, plane, and get to where you want to go to just kind of replenish yourself and exercise some self care, right? So that's the dip account. The next bucket is what we all should know is the emergency account. And we should have
yes.
at least 3 to 6 months of our expenses there, and at best 6 to 12, right? And then the other
Wow.
bucket, the third piece, is that wealth account. And so this is what you were talking about earlier, like building up some money to start a business. So this is where, if you are in your 9 to 5 and you're transitioning into your business full time, this is that bucket where you would set money aside for that seed money to invest in your business. So notice how each one of these buckets has a purpose, right? A
Yes.
clear objective. If you have one account for everything, then you don't know, well, am I balanced here in my dip account? Do I have enough to give somebody else? Am I in alignment with my emergency fund if something was to go down? And, do I actually have enough to build and move forward? Well, if you have one bucket, you can't really clearly define that. If you just have one account. So having 3 to possibly 4, and in some cases 5 to 7, different purposeful accounts, it helps you to organize and manage your finances even
Okay.
better.
So when you tell people that, do they look at you like, "Are you serious?" Like, you want me to?
Usually, no.
The reality. The reality of it is, again, most people have two accounts. They have a savings account. They have a checking account. The ideal of having multiple accounts is like they know they
It's
should, but
Yeah, I would say that the response is more so of, huh, that makes
okay,
sense. So it's
okay,
not
okay.
so much of something they've thought about, but they're not necessarily like too surprised. Now, when I get into, make sometimes in some cases it's like 7 to 9 accounts. But as I'm
Mhm.
explaining the purpose behind them, it makes sense. I do have some people that are like, you know what, that's just too much to manage. I got to keep it down to 3. And so the thing about your wealth journey is that it's your wealth journey. You define it. There are blueprints, there are suggestions that advisors like myself make. But when you are working with an advisor and they're providing you with a direction that just kind of doesn't align with how you think it's going to be best suited for how you function, then that's where the conversation comes in. It's like, okay, well, if that doesn't work, well, then let's try to find a way that's going to be best for you. And that when you have an advisor that's listening to you, and
Mhm.
adjusting and modifying things that will fit your cadence, your vibe, your energy, how you go about doing things, and get you on track to expanding and growing. Because if you keep doing the same thing, expecting different results, we know the definition of that, right? So it's balance between getting out of your comfort zone, out of your regular rhythm, and incorporating some new habits. But these new habits have to make sense. Otherwise, you're not going to implement them. It's going to be too far out of where you are. So there's definitely a harmony that has to take place
So,
between
so, so
your
you
growth
know,
and expansion.
a lot of small business owners, when they go in, there's this, they're going into business. There's this capital investment. They
Mhm.
realize they don't have five, six, $10,000 sitting in their savings account, checking account. So they look at that. What? 401k. So you probably already knew what I was getting ready to say. You felt it. I know you did. I know you felt it. So they look at that 401k and they said, "Well, I could take $25,000 out of here to fund this this business idea." Now, putting your financial planner hat on, what do you say?
Well,
Oh, you
it's kind
breathe.
of a
I don't
tough
know.
question. From a pure It is, because from a pure financial perspective, it's not the ideal decision. It's not the ideal thing to do to rob from your
Mhm.
future self and pay a penalty on top of that, particularly if
Okay.
you are under 59 and a half, right? The flip side to that, and that's not something that I recommend, because if you can take some time to save this, but let me back up one more second. So number one, it's not the ideal bucket to tap into first. Number
Okay.
two, if it's an idea that you just came up with that you don't have any that you're still doing R&D, research and development on, you don't have any really clear substantial um, progress and profit that's generating from it, then I would still not tap into that
No.
retirement plan. On the flip side, though, you have to believe enough in yourself to carry your vision all the way through. And sometimes you need to tap into resources that are not the most fitting. Like some people have built, what's his name? Damon John. He racked up his
Yes.
credit cards to create Fubu. Well, look at where he is now. He hustled. He was on the grind. He believed in himself to the fullest. I think his story is he was sewing in his mother's basement, you know? So, I mean, on the flip side, I never want to deter somebody from their dream.
Mhm.
But there has to be a harmony between, are you really investing in something you're committed to beyond a shadow of a doubt? Or are you just kind of like, not really committed to it? Because you are robbing from your future self when you're tapping into your retirement. So I make sure
Mm.
people explore every other outcome before we consider anything like that, because of the concept of robbing from your future self and the tax implications.
Okay.
So it's not a hard fast no, but you definitely want to really evaluate, how committed are you to achieving this goal.
So, as a
Yeah.
financial planner, most people come to you about, hey, how can I save more money so I can plan for my future? But also, how do I look at this from a tax perspective? Most entrepreneurs they look at the, I call it the revenue profit syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
The revenue profit syndrome, I call it, and when I'm coaching people is they think of, I always used to pizza shop, the pizza joint. I got a great pizza joint. It just made $100,000. I just spent $60,000 in cost. So I make $40,000 and now I can go shopping. All right.
Yeah.
And reality is, well, no, there's still depending on how you set your company up, there's tax liabilities, if you're LLC versus the S corp, and even then, depending how you set that up, there's that. But from a tax perspective, as an entrepreneur, what type of advice do you counsel them in? Because again, it's different from there's the personal side, and then there's you from the business side that you're trying to figure out, how do I lower my income taxes, and how do I figure all this stuff out? How do you
Yeah.
approach that?
Well, I must disclose, I'm not a tax professional by any means, but as a certified
No
financial
problem.
planner, I do have some insight in the area of taxes. Um, so the first thing again that I do to help people is one, to make sure that, like I said in the beginning, are your business and personal expenses separated in two different accounts? You have a business account and a business personal account, personal bank account. That's number one. So I also explain to them how they can prepare for taxes, because oftentimes when you're starting out in business, you don't know how much you would need to potentially pay, but you want
Correct.
to account
Correct.
for that, right? So we organize our cash flow by funneling all of our business income into our business checking account, and we're going to
Mhm.
carve out 20% and just put that into a bank account, a savings account, or checking account specifically for taxes. So when tax season comes into play, we're not shaking in our boots, wondering like, how am I going to pay, for these taxes? We've got some money, set aside, especially if you're not set up to do quarterly taxes yet. That's another factor, being able to pay on a quarterly basis, which provides a lot of benefits to the IRS to know that you are paying on a regular basis. But that's an aside. So we organize your cash flow that way to one, just prepare and have it saved. And then another thing is a lot of people don't realize how they should be diversified tax wise, right? Nor
Okay.
are they aware of the various tax deductions. So when it comes to the various assets, so when you are an entrepreneur, again, the focus is revenue and, marketing and trying to get as many sales as possible. But how are you organizing your expenses? What types of things are you purchasing that you may not even realize are a tax write off, are a deduction, right? So it's also a matter of you getting familiar with and talking to your tax planner, not just your tax preparer, but talking to your tax planner and say, hey, what types of business expenses can I write off? You'd be surprised how much you can write off within your business legally without kind of creating a red flag and causing an audit. So, for example, sorry about that, if you are a dance instructor, right? So then your costumes would be a
Hmm.
deduction because that's for the production of your business. If you are actually, surprisingly, some of your quote regular clothing can be, if you're a consultant, if you
Hmm.
have let me go back a second. Well, if you have done a photo shoot, and in your
Yes.
photo shoot, your clothing, you have
No.
to
No.
purchase some clothing. Well, that
Yes.
clothing that you purchase is a part of your brand. And therefore, you have documentation all over everywhere that those were the clothes that you used. So you'd be able to write off certain clothing, within your business. So you may not normally realize or off the top realize that, certain things that you just kind of buy regularly, like clothing, could actually be, a write-off. So you want to get really familiar with the types of things that you can write off. And that's how you do your planning all throughout the year. You save those receipts, not in a shoebox, but you want to use a program like QuickBooks, FreshBooks, Wave, I think is another one. There's a variety of
Get something.
um,
You need something.
yeah, tax planning software where you could simply just as soon as you incur that expense, you upload that receipt, you
Mhm.
itemize it accordingly, and it takes, once you get into a rhythm, it takes about 60 seconds. It doesn't take a long time.
Wow. For those people who are thinking about going into business, you're new.
Mhm,
I call it the newbie syndrome. All right, you're new. Uh, if you had to give them two pieces of advice, again, they may be clients of yours. They may be maybe clients, and they're like, well, you know what? I'm thinking about starting a business. What two
mhm.
things would you tell them? Here are these two things that you really need to think about before you pull the trigger, before you just jump out there.
The very first thing is mastering your mindset. As cliche as that might sound, it's imperative. Because
Yes. Yes.
when you believe enough in yourself to carry out the various action steps that are needed to make your business generate revenue, thrive, and ultimately become scalable and sustainable, then you're on the right path. It's the belief that you can carry it out, it's the faith that you will carry it out so that so that you develop a knowing and a level of confidence that you will generate a multi-million dollar business. Because I'm sure the people that come to you, Corinthians, and the people that come to me for sure are spiritually grounded individuals. And I believe that in this day and age, with so many things happening, that it's imperative that we as spiritually grounded people rise to the occasion to allow our inner wealth be monetized to be gifts and to others, but monetized in a way where we're serving and providing quality services, quality products that are not tearing up our ecosystem and our environment, but are clean and holistic and beneficial and uplifting. It is imperative that we show up. It's imperative that we show up and shine to begin to eradicate some of the muckety muck that's going on. We have to show up. We can't
you know,
constantly complain, right? We have to show up. So mindset is number one.
uh-huh.
And I would say number two is have a purpose with a plan. Have a plan with a purpose. They're
There you go.
interchangeable.
I have a young man. He's a doctor. He wants to do his own private practice. I'm like, that's great. That's
Mhm.
fantastic. But he wanted to go big first. And I had to pull him back. I said, you may think this like I'm preaching to you, but I'm not. But you have to be able to take care of what you got small in
Mhm.
order to be prepared for when the opportunity comes for you to go
That's
big.
right.
And I told everyone who's an entrepreneur who's starting off, everyone wants to go big first. And I said, but you haven't done the work. You haven't done the preparation. I used the examples that if you want a multi-million dollar company and I gave you a multi-million dollar company, would you be able to maintain a multi-million dollar company
Right.
if you never
Yes.
maintained a $10,000 company?
Right.
No, I mean,
It's
because most people
definitely
just
a
think,
journey and a process
because
because
most people
there's one
think it's just
phase
a
of
number. Exactly. Exactly.
there's one phase of, you're starting a business and you're wearing all the hats, right? Sole proprietorship.
Yep.
Even if you have established it as a particular entity, if it's just you in that particular entity, you're wearing all the hats. And then as you begin to expand and grow, you definitely evolve and develop into a true CEO. And that's a process in and of itself because nobody's born a CEO. You're just really shooting from the hip and learning, as you go, right? So you do have to have some fundamentals in place. And I know as a business advisor, you share with people, some of those, steps. And from a financial perspective, you've got to have what I shared earlier, just some fundamentals. You got to have clarity of your cash flow. You have to have order as to where things are going, why, and what for. You need to have proper bookkeeping. That's something else that kind of gets a
Oh my
little lost.
goodness.
All
Oh
that
my
money just
goodness.
comes in and it's like,
See, you gonna make me
it's
start
not
preaching now.
organized.
See, you gonna have me start preaching. See, that's my soapbox right there. That's my one soapbox. And I don't care, I tell everyone that. I said, I don't care if you're just starting off and you don't have one customer. The one service you need to hire is a bookkeeper.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter. I said, because you need to maintain your books. And just having someone that you can give a receipt to who can organize it for you. So when tax time comes, it's more of a blessing than when tax time come around
Yeah.
and you're trying to figure out what you spent money on. How did you spend it? Is this a write-off? No. Spend the $50. Spend the $100 to get a bookkeeper. Again, they don't have to be a full-fledged accountant. Let them manage your books. That's my soapbox. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get on soapbox. That's my
But it's important, that whether you hire a bookkeeper or you begin the process by uploading
yourself.
those
Yeah.
receipts, into a QuickBook, FreshBooks, Waves. There's one other one that I was hoping would come to mind, but those types of apps are very affordable. They're like less than $24 a month, to
Yes.
have that. And even with QuickBooks, you can tap into one of their professionals to assist you along the way. Gusto, I think is another one. I think that's
So
HR. Sorry. But bottom line is that there's so many apps and so many things to make this part of the process streamlined. So when it comes to the seed money that you need to have set up, because another thing people are concerned about is, losing their benefits. Well, you don't have to lose your benefits just because you become an entrepreneur. How do you think the company created benefits for you to have as an employee? You can create the same benefits for
exactly.
yourself. So you want to have a plan to say, okay, well, these are the expenses that I'm going to incur, but what are some things that I'm worried about? Oh, I'm worried about not having health insurance. But what does it cost to have health insurance as a business owner? Oh, well, it's going to cost X amount. Plan that into your expenses because those types of things are now deductions for you on the business end. So don't feel fearful of maybe it's more than you had as an employee, had to pay as an employee, but it's a tax write-off. The thing that's really important to understand as a business owner is shifting your mindset from an employee to a full on business owner. Because again, many of the
Oh my
things that you
goodness.
weren't aware of that you could write off, you can write off, which means that you're able to keep more in your pocket. So there's
I'm telling
strategies,
you,
there's planning.
you ticking all my boxes here. Okay, you, you ticking all. That is the hardest thing to get anyone to understand. That shifts between an employee mindset and as an owner. So
Mhm.
it's hard. But you know what I want to talk about. I want to know how you came up with this Zeallionaire club. That's what I want to know. I
Well,
want to know
yeah,
how
a
did
lot
you
of people
come up with the Zeallionaire club? Come on, you got to tell me now. You got to tell me.
a lot of people will spell it or think of it as Zill, but it's Zeallioniare because it goes back to that spiritually grounded individual. So having zeal means that you have a fire, you have a fervor in order to bring forth your God-given talent, the wealth that you were born with, bring that forth into society to bring added value. So, as a zillionaire, if you are on path to monetizing your talent and sharing it with the world, you're a zillionaire. Now we just got to bring in the money. So the Zeallionaire Club is all about those spiritually grounded individuals that are on task to bringing their gift to the world, to the community, to society in order to make it grow. And I help those individuals get over their money paradigm because there's a lot of like, oh, I just want to make a little bit just to kind of get by, or they just want to just play small. So I help you to expand your vision in pursuit of the goal that you're trying to accomplish, that you're going to accomplish, and to organize that in a way that's financially sustainable. There's so many things you can Google, all kinds of YouTube it and all that kind of stuff when it comes to building wealth. But are they positioning you to build wealth in a sustainable way, and sustainable within your family line, but also sustainable when it comes to our economy as a whole? So
Mhm.
there's two different perspectives there. And so I share with people a somewhat fresh, unique perspective on how to accumulate sustainable wealth that, frankly, many of my colleagues don't have the same vision, shall we say, because, a lot of people don't want to mix in the spiritual piece. Whereas, I talk about it. And I think it's important because spiritually grounded people need to rise up to the occasion to shift the stuff that's going on in this world that we don't like. So that's what the Zeallionaire Club is all about. I got off on a little bit of a tangent. So I help you to take your personal finances to the next level on in so many different categories. So not only am I the person that helps you to organize your finances, but also to bring in specialists. Because as I mentioned, I'm not a tax professional.
Mhm.
So I have tax professionals that come in, I have real estate agents that come in, I have business advisors like yourself that come in to the club to expand on that area so that people are setting themselves up
Well,
correctly
I
and
well,
in alignment.
you
Mhm.
gotta tell people how to sign up. I mean, can they sign up? How can they see you? I mean, what's the website name? You gotta give it to them all now.
Yes, right. Thank you for that. So you can go to any of my social media pages. So that would be Zeallionaire on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and I do have a group on Facebook, the Personal Wealth Strategies for Women Entrepreneurs Over 40 is the name of the group on Facebook. And also on my personal page, Melanie Denise Perry, you'll see a link to the Zeallionaire Club. You want to be a part of it. It's a monthly subscription. It's very affordable because I know as we're trying to get to the next level, shelling out for a lot of these courses, $2,500, $3,000, $5,000 can be a bit out of range. But the membership is very affordable this
Now,
month.
everyone, I need you to go sign up. Click the button. She
Yes.
gave you all the information on what it is. Because again, I didn't know what it was too until I read it, and then I was like, I need to talk to her to figure out what this is. So I gotta
Yeah.
have you back.
It's a movement. It's
I gotta
definitely a
have you
movement for
back.
sure. And I'd love
You
to come
have
back.
to come back because I'm getting ready to put a master class together, and so I got to have you come back because I want to talk about why it's important where you're setting up your business to understand why you need to put trust in place to pass on
Mm,
your wealth. Definitely got to have
exactly.
you come back. Again, hey, everyone. Now, see, do you got a slogan? I know you have a slogan. I know you got to have a slogan
I
for the
do,
Zeallionaire Club.
and it's not coming to mind right now, but what I encourage all people to do is to be blessed and be a blessing.
Oh wow. Wow. See, you know what? I'm gonna leave that alone. So again, thank you, Melanie, for coming onto the show. We will definitely have you back. Again, guys, success doesn't happen overnight. It happens what? Day by day.